Hi, I'm Stuart from the Norfolk Honey Company and welcome to another Beekeeping Basics. Today I want to just spend a few minutes summarising the position we're in here in Norfolk in the UK with our beekeeping season and hopefully help you get ready for the winter ahead. If you've not yet subscribed, please do take a moment to hit the subscribe button at the bottom of the screen, where you'll also see a little bell symbol, and if you click on that you'll get a reminder each time we upload a new video. Our Facebook group, Stuart's Beekeeping Basics, continues to grow and you'd be most welcome to join us there for more beekeeping discussion. So it's now August and our attention here in the apiary turns towards preparing our bees for the winter ahead. Timing is everything for us and we never know what the weather is going to do into the late autumn, and if it does turn cold and we haven't fed our bees enough by then, we may set ourselves up for a difficult winter. All of the information that I'm about to discuss with you is specifically timed for our beekeeping here in Norfolk, and you have to make a judgment as to when and how you prepare your bees for the coming winter. Just don't leave it too late. Firstly, all of the honey that we've produced is now off the hives. We've extracted that or we're holding some of it back to produce cut comb and chunk honey, and I'll produce a video showing how I produce the cut comb and chunk honey for our Getting Started series of videos. Those supers that we have extracted have been returned to the hives that they were removed from, and the bees will now clean those up, and it's really important to replace them back on the hives that produce the honey to reduce the risk of spreading any pests and diseases. Hives that require a Varroa treatment should have been started by now if you're using a thymol based product. They take quite a long time, upwards of 4 weeks. I personally much prefer to use the mite quick strips or max, as they're just a 1 week treatment and that allows me to focus on making sure the colonies are queen right. In terms of making colonies queen right, what I'm initially looking for is to make sure that the colony has eggs and brood. But more than that, what I'm looking for is the size of the colony, and anything that's on the small side will shortly be united with another colony, and the easiest way I find to do that is using the newspaper method. If you're not familiar with the newspaper method, then check out my video on how to unite two colonies using the newspaper method, but it's a very straightforward process. I mainly use commercial beehives with a few nationals. I've got maybe a dozen or so national beehives, and I find that with the commercials I only need to have the brood box for the winter with no additional supers to give extra food store space if they need it. There are always colonies that do need more space, but those are the exception generally, and usually a decent block of fondant above the crown board is enough to give them what they need. The nationals, on the other hand, always get an additional super as well as the brood box to store their extra food that they need for the winter, as I don't really think that the brood box is big enough for them to have sufficient stores to overwinter successfully. I usually place the super between the floor and the brood box, which allows the brood nest to move higher in the hive, and that way any chills that happen to flow through are lower down and the brood nest is held higher, and any cold winds that maybe blow through the open mesh floor are not going to affect the brood nest. At this time of the year, for us wasps can be a problem, but it's usually only with the weaker or smaller colonies. The larger colonies always seem to be able to cope quite easily without the need for wasp traps, but if you do have a wasp problem, then it's wise to put out 1 or 2 wasp traps, and again take a look at our wasp trap video and I'll put some links in for these. But what I have taken to doing is adding some cider vinegar to the mix. We usually use a cheap beer or fizzy drink, and that gives sweetness, but the combination with the cider vinegar seems to attract the wasps more effectively, and so that's the process that we're using now. Finally, with feeding the bees, it's really important if you've not left them any excess honey. I know that for some beekeepers out there, production and removal of honey is not your reason for beekeeping. and you leave a full super of honey on for your bees, and that's fine. If that's the way you keep your bees, then feeding is not so much of a concern. But it's still important that you do check the bees have been able to store enough honey through the summer to see them through the winter, because if you have a poor summer, then the bees will not be able to store enough honey and you may still need to feed them. I switched to a heavy sugar syrup for feeding my colonies towards the end of August. It allows them to store it more quickly than the light syrup, and there are several ready-made syrups that you can purchase that are out there, and they're fine. They all do pretty much the same job, but with sugar pricing being so cheap at the moment and affordable, why not make up your own sugar syrup? It's quite easy to do, and I think we've also got a video on that, so take a look through our video list. I like to aim for a heavy brood box full of stores. I know that in a lot of the books they'll give set figures of maybe 30 pounds of stores, but that's quite difficult to accurately measure. I much prefer to use the old method of hefting, which is just lifting up the back of the hive and feeling the weight of the beehive with all the stores in it. And if you don't know what that is, check out my video on hefting and winter preparation, along with the other videos that we've got in that series. Well, that's probably enough to keep you all busy for now. I hope that gives you some direction in getting set for the winter and gets you actively preparing and not leaving it to chance. The worst thing that you could do is to do nothing at this point. Keep checking your bees, keep inspecting your bees, but bear in mind that this month is going to run through very quickly, and before you know it, we'll be into autumn and it'll start to be a little bit on the late side for getting some of these jobs done. Don't forget to check out our Patreon page where you can help support our growing beekeeping channel. We're a crowd-funded channel and rely on the support of our patrons to continue our work, and I'm very grateful for all of you that have already supported us through that page. Next time out, we'll be using a refractometer in our Getting Started series, so until then, thanks for watching.